Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm here again with a brand new story. Enjoy the story, and don't forget to share your valuable thoughts in the comments.
What if an entire American town tried to erase a single night from history? What if, for nearly 100 years, people living deep in the mountains of West Virginia refused to speak about a place so terrifying that maps were quietly changed, church records disappeared, and even law officers avoided the road after sunset? And what if the few surviving witnesses all described the exact same thing? A sound coming from beneath the earth that no human being could explain. Tonight's story begins in the autumn of 1891 in the isolated mountains of West Virginia, where a forgotten settlement called Black Hollow once stood hidden between endless forests and steep cliffs. Officially, Black Hollow never appeared in major newspapers at the time. Most Americans had never heard its name. Yet, according to scattered journals, railroad documents, and private letters discovered decades later, something happened there so disturbing that entire families abandoned their homes and swore never to return. The town itself was small. Fewer than 200 people lived there. Most worked in timber camps or coal tunnels carved directly into the mountainside. Life was harsh but predictable. Winters were brutal, food was limited, and the nearest large town was nearly 2 days away by horse. But the isolation of Black Hollow was exactly why strange rumors survived there for generations. Older residents often warned children never to wander near the northern ridge after dark. They spoke about abandoned shafts beneath the mountain that predated the American Civil War. According to local legend, the tunnels were not originally built by miners at all. Some believed they were ancient passages discovered long before settlers arrived in the region. Most people ignored the stories. Until October 17, 1891. That evening, a violent storm rolled across the mountains. Witnesses later described thunder so powerful that windows shattered across town. Around midnight, several residents reported hearing an unusual sound beneath the storm itself. Not thunder, not wind, a low metallic vibration coming from underground. One farmer named Elias Turner wrote in his journal that the sound reminded him of iron chains dragged slowly beneath the earth. At first, people assumed an old mine tunnel had collapsed somewhere inside the mountain. Cave-ins were common in those days. But by morning, miners arriving at shaft number 12 discovered something impossible. The entrance tunnel had widened overnight. Not from an explosion, not from a collapse, but as if the rock itself had been torn open from inside. According to surviving reports, the opening extended nearly 30 feet deeper than any previous survey map showed. Workers standing near the entrance claimed cold air poured from the darkness below, carrying a terrible smell described as wet soil mixed with something rotten. The mining company ordered a small inspection team to investigate immediately. 7 men entered the shaft that morning. Only 4 came back, and none of them would ever speak publicly again. At first, townspeople assumed the missing miners had been trapped during another collapse. Rescue teams prepared to enter the shaft, but before they could descend, one of the surviving miners suddenly began screaming in the center of town. Witnesses claimed the man's face looked completely drained of color. He kept repeating the same sentence over and over. It wasn't empty. Doctors believed he had suffered a mental breakdown caused by toxic gas exposure underground. Yet what happened next terrified the town even more. That night, all 4 surviving miners disappeared from their homes. Not a single trace of them was ever found. Over the following weeks, strange events spread across Black Hollow. Livestock vanished from fenced areas without signs of attack. Residents reported hearing distant hammering noises beneath the ground after midnight. Dogs refused to approach the northern ridge and often barked wildly toward the forest before running away in fear. Then came the incident at the church. On November 2nd, Reverend Caleb Whitmore gathered several townspeople for evening prayer after panic began spreading through the settlement. According to a letter later discovered in Pennsylvania decades afterwards, the Reverend hoped to calm fears before more families abandoned the area. But halfway through the service, every candle inside the church suddenly extinguished at the exact same moment. Several witnesses claimed they then heard the same metallic vibration coming from below the floorboards. One woman reportedly fainted instantly. Another ran screaming into the storm outside. And Reverend Whitmore himself allegedly locked the church doors and ordered everyone to remain silent. No official record explains what happened inside the building that night. But the following morning, the church bell was found shattered on the ground, despite weighing several hundred pounds. After that, fear consumed Black Hollow completely. Families began fleeing without warning. Some abandoned furniture, clothing, even food still cooking on tables. Nearby towns noticed groups arriving at strange hours, carrying almost no belongings. When questioned, many refused to discuss Black Hollow at all. By December, nearly half the settlement stood empty. Then came the disappearance that transformed local fear into nationwide secrecy. On December 14th, a railroad supply crew traveling near Black Hollow failed to arrive at its destination. Search parties eventually discovered the abandoned train engine several miles outside town. The fire inside the engine still burned, but every crew member was gone. No blood, no footprints, nothing. Investigators searching the surrounding forest discovered something even stranger. Nearly every tree around the tracks carried deep marks carved into the bark at identical heights. Some thought bears had damaged the wood. Others believed tools were responsible. But according to the sheriff's notes, the marks resembled enormous scratches running perfectly parallel for hundreds of feet through the forest. The federal government officially dismissed the event as an accident caused by winter conditions. Yet within days, military officers reportedly arrived in the region and restricted access to the northern ridge. That decision created even more suspicion. Why would the government care about a small mining settlement hidden deep in the mountains? The answer may have come from a document uncovered in 1978. A historian researching abandoned Appalachian towns discovered a damaged journal hidden inside the walls of an old farmhouse near Black Hollow. Most pages were destroyed by moisture, but several entries remained readable. The journal belonged to Deputy Sheriff Martin Hale, one of the last lawmen to remain in Black Hollow before the town collapsed completely. His final entries were chilling. Hale described repeated sightings of lights moving beneath the forest at night, like lanterns carried underground. And he also claimed several townspeople reported hearing voices coming from abandoned mine entrances, despite nobody being inside. But the most disturbing entry appeared just 3 days before Hale himself vanished forever. I followed the sound tonight beyond Shaft 12. There is another tunnel beneath the older tunnels, older than anything built by miners. Walls smooth like polished stone, no tool marks anywhere. Heard movement ahead, not animal movement, something else, came back after finding marks on the floor shaped almost
like footprints, but too long, too narrow. God help this town. Martin Hale disappeared the next evening. Search teams later found his horse wandering alone near the ridge. Nothing else was recovered. By early 1892, Black Hollow was effectively abandoned. Maps published after 1900 gradually stopped mentioning the settlement entirely. Several county records connected to the town mysteriously vanished from local archives. Even more unusual, residents from nearby communities often refused to discuss Black Hollow with outsiders. For decades, the story faded into regional folklore. Then, in 1936, a group of college students attempted to explore the ruins during a summer expedition. Only 2 returned. According to newspaper reports from the time, the survivors were discovered walking along a highway nearly 15 miles from the old settlement. Both appeared severely dehydrated and disoriented. When questioned by police, they gave wildly inconsistent stories. One claimed their group became lost during heavy fog. The other insisted they heard machinery operating beneath the mountains, despite no active mines existing within miles. But investigators noticed something disturbing about both survivors. Each had identical injuries on their arms, long bruises circling the wrists as though they had been tightly restrained. The remaining students were never found. Officially, authorities blamed the disappearances on dangerous terrain and exposure. Yet rumors surrounding Black Hollow exploded again throughout Appalachia. Locals began sharing older stories that had remained hidden for decades. Some claimed miners in the 1800s accidentally uncovered a buried tunnel system far older than the United States itself. Others believed something beneath the mountain had awakened after excavation began. And a few whispered an even darker possibility, that the people of Black Hollow were never alone inside those mountains. In 1954, another strange event pushed the mystery back into public attention. Construction workers preparing a new highway route near the region reported repeated equipment failures around the northern ridge. Bulldozers stalled without explanation. Survey markers disappeared overnight. One worker later told reporters he heard metal striking metal underground while working after sunset. Then, during excavation, crews uncovered a sealed stone opening buried beneath several feet of earth. Photographs taken before the site was closed reportedly showed smooth black walls, unlike ordinary rock formations in the area. Within 48 hours, federal officials arrived again. Construction stopped immediately. The opening was sealed with concrete, and all photographs vanished from public records. No explanation was ever given. Naturally, conspiracy theories spread across America. Some believe the government discovered evidence of an unknown civilization beneath Appalachia. Others thought the tunnels connected to secret military operations hidden during the Cold War. But among local families, one belief remained constant generation after generation. Whatever existed beneath Black Hollow was dangerous enough that people chose silence over survival. Even today, travelers passing through remote parts of West Virginia occasionally report strange stories connected to the old settlement. Hunters describe hearing distant metallic echoes beneath otherwise silent forests. Campers claim compasses behave strangely near the ridge. And some insist abandoned mine entrances occasionally appear where no tunnels should exist at all. In 1998, a documentary crew attempted to film inside the region for a television special about forgotten American mysteries. Production notes leaked years later revealed several unsettling incidents during filming. Audio equipment repeatedly captured unexplained low-frequency sounds that technicians could not identify. One cameraman reportedly quit after claiming he saw lights moving underground through cracks in the rocks. Most disturbing of all, the crew's final interview involved an elderly woman whose grandfather once lived in Black Hollow before fleeing as a child. When asked why families abandoned the town so suddenly, she reportedly answered with a sentence producers later removed from broadcast: "Because the mountain finally answered back." The documentary aired with most references to Black Hollow heavily edited. To this day, no verified explanation exists for the disappearances, abandoned tunnels, or missing records connected to the settlement. Historians argue that fear and isolation likely transformed ordinary mining accidents into exaggerated folklore over time. Skeptics believe toxic gases, unstable tunnels, and mass panic could explain many events described in surviving accounts. But certain questions remain unanswered. Why were government officials repeatedly connected to the area across multiple decades? Why did official maps slowly erase the town from existence? And why did so many unrelated witnesses describe hearing the exact same sound beneath the earth? Perhaps the truth died with the people who vanished inside those mountains. Or perhaps some places carry secrets too terrifying for history books. Deep within the forests of Appalachia, the ruins of Black Hollow are said to remain hidden beneath overgrown trees and collapsing foundations. Most roads leading towards the old settlement disappeared long ago. Locals still avoid the region after dark. And according to modern hikers, on certain cold autumn nights, if the wind falls silent enough, you can still hear it. A slow metallic vibration rising from somewhere deep underground. Not thunder, not machinery, something older, waiting beneath the mountain.
What if the terror of Black Hollow did not end in 1891? What if the people who fled those mountains escaped something that was still waiting underground? And what if, decades later, others unknowingly returned to wake it again? Because according to scattered reports hidden inside forgotten archives across America, the true horror of Black Hollow may not have been the disappearances. It may have been what investigators eventually discovered beneath the town. The story continued in the winter of 1962. America was deep inside the Cold War. Fear dominated the country. Across the nation, military agencies searched remote regions for hidden facilities, underground storage sites, and emergency bunkers in case of nuclear conflict with the Soviet Union. And somewhere inside federal planning documents, the abandoned mountains near Black Hollow appeared once again. Officially, the government described the region as geologically stable and isolated, perfect for underground construction. No one involved in the project seemed aware of the older stories, at least not at first. In February of 1962, a private engineering company received a classified contract to survey the northern ridge where the old mining tunnels once existed. The operation was small. Fewer than 30 workers arrived initially, bringing drilling equipment, generators, and temporary trailers. For the first few days, everything appeared normal. Then strange problems began almost immediately. Electrical systems repeatedly failed after sunset. Compasses spun unpredictably near certain rock formations. Workers reported hearing knocking sounds beneath the ground late at night, often in rhythmic patterns. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more. One engineer named Robert Vance later described the sound in a private interview recorded years afterward. "It didn't sound random," he said. "It sounded deliberate, like somebody was answering us." At first, supervisors blamed old mine shafts shifting beneath the mountain. But on the 6th night, an incident occurred that changed the entire operation. A drilling team working near the ridge suddenly lost contact with the main camp. When security crews arrived, they found the drilling machine still running. Floodlights remained powered. Coffee inside metal cups was still warm, but the workers themselves had vanished. All 4 of them. No footprints led into the forest, despite fresh snow covering the ground. No signs of struggle existed anywhere nearby. The only unusual detail was discovered beside the drill site itself. The earth beneath the machine had partially collapsed, revealing a narrow vertical shaft descending deep into darkness. Military personnel sealed the area immediately. The official report classified the disappearance as an accident caused by unstable terrain. But several surviving workers later claimed the truth was far stranger. One mechanic stated he saw government officials carrying old maps recovered from Black Hollow decades earlier. Another claimed armed men entered tunnels beneath the ridge and returned visibly shaken hours later. Within weeks, nearly the entire project was abandoned. Most records connected to the survey disappeared into federal archives. Yet one document survived. A heavily damaged audio transcript leaked anonymously in 1987 during a congressional investigation into classified Cold War projects. The transcript allegedly came from a recording captured underground during the final days of the Black Hollow survey. At first, the audio contained only static and distant voices. Then came the sound, a low metallic vibration identical to descriptions from 1891. Several men can reportedly be heard arguing in the background before another voice suddenly interrupts. "Did you see that moving?" The recording then captures nearly 20 seconds of silence, followed by a terrified scream, then complete static. Experts who later examined the leaked transcript could never verify its authenticity. Some believed it was an elaborate hoax inspired by Appalachian folklore. Others noticed disturbing similarities between the transcript and far older witness accounts connected to Black Hollow, especially one repeated detail: the movement underground. Not long after the failed survey, local rumors spread again across nearby towns. Hunters claimed unfamiliar vehicles traveled mountain roads late at night without headlights. Residents occasionally reported distant explosions beneath the earth, and several hikers disappeared near the ridge between 1963 and 1965. Most were eventually blamed on wilderness accidents. Not all bodies were recovered. But perhaps the strangest chapter of the Black Hollow mystery began in 1971 when a retired school teacher named Eleanor Whitaker purchased a box of abandoned belongings at an estate sale in Pennsylvania. Inside the box, she discovered dozens of old letters tied together with faded string. The letters belonged to Reverend Caleb Whitmore, the same church minister present during the terrifying night when Black Hollow's church bell shattered in 1891. Most of the letters focused on ordinary town matters, but several, written during the final weeks before the settlement collapsed, revealed something deeply unsettling. Whitmore believed the tunnels beneath Black Hollow were not natural. According to one letter addressed to a fellow minister in Virginia, miners had uncovered stone corridors impossible for modern men to build beneath such mountains. He also claimed strange symbols existed on certain underground walls, symbols he described as older than any language known to us. Yet the most disturbing passage appeared inside a letter dated November 28, 1891. Whitmore wrote that several townspeople had begun suffering from identical nightmares. All described standing inside enormous underground chambers while hearing metallic sounds echo endlessly through darkness. And in every dream, something watched them from beyond the tunnel walls. At first, I believed fear itself infected their minds, Whitmore wrote, but now I fear the mountain has become aware of us. Eleanor Whittiper attempted to publish the letters years later. Few historians took them seriously. Critics argued the writings reflected religious paranoia fueled by isolation and fear during dangerous mining conditions. Still, the letters renewed public fascination with Black Hollow across America. Paranormal investigators began traveling toward the region during the 1970s and 1980s, searching for abandoned tunnels. Some claimed to find strange rock formations hidden beneath collapsed mine entrances. Others reported hearing unexplained vibrations underground, similar to earlier witness descriptions. One research group even claimed magnetic readings around the ridge behaved abnormally compared to surrounding areas, but no discovery ever fully explained the mystery. Then came the event that terrified even the skeptics. In October of 1984, 5 college students from Ohio entered the mountains, hoping to document the Black Hollow legend for a photography project. Unlike earlier expeditions, this group carried modern equipment, including radios, cameras, and camping supplies. For 2 days, they remained in regular contact with friends outside the area. On the 3rd night, the radio transmissions changed. At first, the students reported hearing strange echoes inside the forest after sunset. Then, one student described discovering what appeared to be a hidden opening beneath fallen rocks near the ridge. The final transmission lasted less than 30 seconds. Most of it was distorted by static, but investigators later recovered one clearly understandable sentence from the recording. "It sounds closer now." After that, communication stopped completely. Massive search efforts followed over the next week. 4 students were eventually found wandering separately through the forest in states of extreme confusion. None could clearly explain what happened, and all 4 refused to return to the mountains ever again. But the 5th student, Daniel Mercer, never returned. Search teams later discovered his camera beside a collapsed tunnel entrance. The film inside had been badly damaged. Only one photograph remained partially visible after development. According to investigators who viewed it, the image showed darkness inside a narrow stone corridor deep underground. And far in the background appeared what some believed resembled a tall human figure standing motionless near the edge of the camera flash. The photograph was never released publicly. Rumors surrounding it spread for decades afterward. Some claimed the figure was merely another student distorted by shadows. Others insisted the proportions looked wrong, too thin, too tall, not entirely human. By the 1990s, Black Hollow had become one of America's most infamous hidden legends. Horror magazines, paranormal radio shows, and early internet forums spread hundreds of theories about the abandoned town. Ancient civilizations, secret experiments, creatures living beneath Appalachia, mass hallucinations, government cover-ups. Yet, despite countless stories, one undeniable fact remained consistent throughout every decade. People kept disappearing near the ridge, not frequently enough to attract national panic, but enough to keep the legend alive. In 2003, 2 rangers conducting a wildlife survey reportedly encountered a sealed tunnel entrance hidden behind thick vegetation several miles north of the old settlement ruins. According to unofficial reports leaked online years later, the entrance appeared reinforced with aging concrete and rusted steel doors, partially buried beneath dirt and moss. The doors carried no markings, no government insignia, nothing. When the rangers attempted to document the site, one claimed they heard a deep vibration coming from somewhere behind the sealed entrance. The sound reportedly lasted less than 10 seconds. Both rangers abandoned the area immediately. Later attempts to relocate the structure failed. Some believe the entrance never existed at all. Others suspect the government removed it before further investigation could occur. But among longtime residents near the mountains, older warnings still survive. Do not follow unfamiliar sounds into the forest after dark. Do not enter abandoned tunnels, no matter how shallow they appear. And if the earth beneath your feet begins to vibrate in complete silence, leave immediately. Because according to the oldest stories connected to Black Hollow, the mountain does not sleep forever. It listens, and sometimes, deep beneath the forests of Appalachia, something still answers back.